Going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 63 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today I welcomed a really great singer-songwriter from Arizona. Her name is Juno, aka Junovxrse. I discovered her music back in February, I believe. We connected on Instagram. She dropped a song 9 to 5 back in March. That was a very dope song. And today we got to catch up about some different things about her career, how she got started in music at an early age and kind of took a little bit of a break around the time she was in college, and then I believe she said after college she ended up getting back into it. Actually auditioned for American Idol a few years ago, and she talked about the experience that left her with and how she was able to basically start fresh as an indie artist. And now she is currently building up her own artist collective. She's worked with many LA producers and engineers as well as Arizona. She talks about moving from LA to Arizona and what that transition was like. Really what I love about Juno and her music is, the real raw honesty in it. And she talks about how she creates her songs basically through freestyles, similar to Janae Aiko, how she constructs her music. She'll just go in the booth, either have something written down very quickly or just kind of start coming up with lyrics off the top of her head. And I think that's a great way of going about it, and a very unique way of writing. And finally, we talked about the music that she has coming up. She's actually working on a TV show as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do with that. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. Welcome everyone to episode number 63 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today we have a really incredible singer-songwriter. She dropped a really great song called 9 to 5 earlier this year. She goes by the name of Junovxrse. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, like I said, and I really appreciate you, reaching out to me on the show and everything. I know we got in contact back in, I think, February originally about music and everything, and I'm glad to kind of get you on here and hopefully learn a little bit more about you as an artist and as a person and everything. So to start out, we basically have the guests give a little bit of background, how you got into music, how long you've been doing it and everything, kind of just the basics for those that might not be familiar with you and your sound.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was born in LA, number one, like the big music city. I was born in Inglewood, actually. So, you always hear a lot of greats coming out of like Inglewood and like Compton. And I grew up with a lot of like musical influences around me. So, like being from LA, like music was just always there. So it was just something that I dove into really quickly as a young kid or whatever. So I started out like singing at the age of 3. My mom told me, like, she literally told me like I would just be singing at daycare and like doing little things like that. Just, starting out singing like Alicia Keys. I think that was like one of my first songs I ever sang actually. And then so, from there I just like had been singing like all throughout pretty much like my childhood. Mom took me to like auditions, and I was a theater kid in high school, but it really wasn't until like I think like the senior year in high school where I was like, oh my God, like let me start getting in my writer's bag to see if I can actually do this, like actually put something together that's not somebody else's, basically. And then just from there, like it kind of like took off. Like I went to college and kind of like slept on the music a little bit and like went into hiding. And then after college and after my grandma passing is when I really started to like take it serious, and like I started writing more and just like being in the studio. And I got signed to a small label out here in AZ. I didn't stay super long on the label, but I was on the label for like a year, and then I decided to go back solo again and then just really start my career from there. So that's kind of where it all started, like right after, this label. And then, I also did American Idol during that year as well. And I think that was like 2018. And I had auditioned and I didn't make it. So I was like, damn, like I really need to like, like do this now. Like I really can't give up now. Like there's too much at stake. So yeah, like that's a little bit of background about me. And now I live in Arizona, but I like travel back and forth from LA to AZ. I've worked with some producers out there in LA. So it's a really cool vibe.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of ground to cover in like that amount of time as well. Like it's just kind of cool to hear how much you've done in that time. You know what I mean? I didn't even know about the American Idol thing, so that's pretty crazy right there in and of itself.
Yeah,
But
it was not a lot of people knew about it. I feel like I didn't really advertise it because I didn't make it that far. I only
yeah,
made it after the first the first round. I got cut.
yeah,
So you know what I mean? Like it was a little embarrassing to even bring up, anyways.
yeah.
But it was a good experience nonetheless.
Uh
Would I do it again? Probably not,
huh.
because solo artist is where it's at.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, did you do the like LA auditions then at that time?
so actually, I was in Arizona when
Oh,
I
okay.
did the for American Idol. And this was back in like I want to say it was like 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere around there. I can't remember off the top
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I mean, either way, just to even have that opportunity is something you can at least look back on and be like, I did it. So
Right,
that's really
right.
cool. So I'm interested for you as far as your songwriting goes. How do you usually begin the process of writing a song? Do you need the beat first, like the music, to go and kind of just go from there? Or are you just writing constantly and you kind of just wait for the right music to come to be able to fit what you're writing?
You know what? I think it varies for me, but I think like when I go in the studio, or if I'm at home and I'm writing, like
Mm,
I will literally put on a beat and I'll just start freestyling. And I feel like I write the best music out of my freestyles because freestyles are so authentic. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like you're just saying everything you're feeling at once, and usually that's how it goes for me. Like I'm such an empathic person. I feel so many like feelings and emotions, and I'm like very spiritual. So like when I'm writing, I feel like when I'm freestyling, it all kind of comes out at one
mm,
time. And then after that freestyle is laid down on the mic, I'll go back and I'll write and I'll revise. But usually I'm coming up. I'll find a beat first, or I'll create one because I also create beats as
mm,
well for myself. So I've been getting in my beat bag as well.
mm.
Trying to be a little bit more multifaceted. But no, like that's just pretty much my process.
Mm.
Definitely coming up with that beat, then the melody, and then from there, boom, it's just like magic.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to talk a little bit about the producing in a bit because I definitely wanted to ask you about that. But I know, like, as far as the freestyling goes, I know Janae Aiko is one of my favorite singers. She does the same thing. It's kind of like, I think I read an interview where she described that. She's like, I kind of just go in and I just start freestyling whatever I wrote down in my notebook. And then we just create the music around it and we take our good old time and just make a great song out of what, I freestyled and everything. And I was like, it's kind of an interesting way to go about it because a lot of people, they either wait for the beat and just do that, or they have something completely laid down and they have someone build the track around it. But it's kind of just a
Right.
different way to go about it. And like, I think it's like what you said. It's more, you can really get into your real emotions that way because it's just straight coming right from your head onto the paper and you're just going and you're just saying what you need to say. So,
Right.
yeah.
It's very flowy. It's very like authentic and genuine, and that's why I write that way.
Mm-hmm.
And just speaking of Janae, like I love Janae. Like anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Janae Aiko, big Sean fan. Like, oh my God. But yeah, like she's one of my huge influences. So I did see that interview too. Like I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just so funny to hear her saying that her process is the same. So that was a really cool moment when I watched that video. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not the only one who does it this way.
So that was a good segue then into the next question because I want to know, other than Janae, obviously, who are some of your biggest musical influences, either when you were growing up or maybe still today?
Like definitely when I was growing up, like I said, like Alicia Keys was definitely one of the first people that I looked up to as a writer, as inspiration. She was, playing keys, and I was like, oh my God, who is this girl with, who's this black girl with braids playing these keys and just this amazing voice? Like she was just at her epitome in her career, and I was in love with her. Definitely Alicia. I'm gonna say Erica Badu. I want to say Sade. These are all people that have that very soulful, like gentle vibe, and it's just so beautiful. And then like I guess like mainstream artists today, like I said, Janae, SZA. I'm a big Daniel Caesar fan. I love some Daniel Caesar and Frank Ocean. Like, you'll really probably catch me listening to them like half the time. So that's like my biggest wave right now. And definitely a lot of Michael Jackson and Aretha Franklin. So definitely my sound derives a lot from like new age to old age R&B.
Yeah. So you're from Inglewood. I gotta ask, are you a James Fauntleroy fan or like? Because he's great. I love his music. Anything he touches is gold to me. So.
Oh my gosh! Like, you know what? It's so funny that you mentioned him too, because like James Fauntleroy, not a lot of people know that he is like such this great like writer and producer. And like one of the first songs I heard from James Fauntleroy was like on YouTube. It was something that he dropped, and it's funny because he doesn't really drop that much stuff. So when he does, it was just like, oh my god, like, But I am a big fan of him. I love him a lot. So definitely one of my like go-tos in the iPad, the Apple Music for sure.
He's one of those people that like he'll always troll about his own songs because he has like thousands of songs just on his hard drive, and people are like, you should put these out. And he's like, yeah, but I could sell it to Justin Timberlake and make this. Or he's like, I could go write for Frank Ocean or do this. He's like, I don't really want to do it. And he'll just play it, and it's the best song you've ever heard. And you're like, he's got thousands of these. What the hell is he doing? Like, so frustrating. But yeah, I figured you would be a fan because when you said Inglewood, I'm like, oh, James is from Inglewood. I'm like,
yes, Inglewood, cool. Up to no good.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I love some James. He's really dope artist.
Yeah. So I got to ask as well, is there any artist that maybe one day would be like a dream collaboration? Like maybe you would want to do a song or like an album with, or even like if it's like a producer or an engineer even, might not even be an artist. Like who are you thinking?
If I had to work with a specific engineer, I definitely would say Timbaland. Like, I feel like Timbaland is one of the best producers there is out there. He just produced Justine Skye's whole album, like her most recent Space and Time album. And I was just like, oh my God, like, Timbaland still got it. Like, like, I was listening to that album and I was like, dang, this man is just like the GOAT. So, like, I definitely think, like, he would be the person to really capture my sound like fully and like where I'm trying to go. I think it would be a dope collab with him.
Yeah. I have his autobiography. I might have to send you like the link to that. It's a very good read. You might have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to check that out. You definitely send it my way. Like, I will peep that, read it ASAP.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't read books very often, but I remember reading that like 5 years ago, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things. This was right before I started music, and you really just get a lot of his backstory as far as like when he was in Virginia, kind of just coming up, making music, and the people he met and everything. And it's really just a really cool. I think he had someone else help him write it. But it's a very, like, eye-opening book, honestly. So.
Right. That's really cool. Well, I am definitely down to read it. I haven't heard about it personally, but I am, all open for that because I'm actually reading the Gucci Mane Guide to Greatness right now. It's actually a really good read. Like, a lot of Gucci Mane, he's the go-to, so.
Yeah. Is that like a whole book then, as well?
Yeah, I actually got it from Barnes and Noble, and like I guess it's like just one of his books that he just recently put out, like one of the most recent bestsellers by him. So he's just giving people the guide to greatness and success in the music industry. It's a really good book.
That's amazing. I mean, I figure like Khaled would have a book like that, but not Gucci Mane. So
right,
now I'm intrigued.
Didn't think that Gucci Mane was a writer at all. He just doesn't strike me as that type.
Yeah. That's interesting. I might have to check that out eventually. So I know that you yourself, you had a podcast going as well called Sense. And I believe, I don't know when the last episode came out, so I'm interested to know, are you going to be picking that back up soon? Like, how did that whole thing come about? If you kind of just want to let people know kind of how you got that started and what that's all about.
Yeah. So basically, I was sitting in a room with some of like my closest friends at the time and my cousin, and I was like, oh my God, it would be really dope if like we started a podcast where we're like interviewing artists, and like each artist that comes on there, we freestyle with them and just put out music, like just drop it on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, whatever. So actually, it ended up you know, like a year later, being produced like the podcast, but so many things had changed then. And it was under Matte Black Art House last year, which was Taylor. She was our head organizer of Matte Black Art House. So she kind of picked up the podcast underneath their platform, which was really cool. So shout out to Taylor, shout out to the whole Matte Black team for that opportunity. But as far as Sense goes right now, me and my co-host, I think we're kind of like at this point where we're on two different paths, and you know, I just feel like I want to branch out more so from the podcast and do more like visual interviews. Now that COVID is over and, you know, things are starting to open back up, I think this would just be the perfect time to really branch out under a new name, under a new start, everything. So I'm not going to say that Sense is over completely, but I'm definitely going to say that it's being reimagined right now, and I'm trying to figure out like what my next move for Sense is going to be as well right now. So I don't think it's over yet, but I'm definitely figuring out different techniques on where I want to take it.
Yeah, because I remember seeing like that was in your bio and everything, and I clicked on the page. I never got around to listening to an episode, but now that you described like what it is or what it was, I'm like, that's pretty cool. But I think it is good too to have kind of a change in direction every once in a while. Like, I feel like if you have a certain vision for where you're going to take this, you know, that's probably what you should do. So
right.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with, for sure.
Thank you. And I have so many ideas, and, you know, I work with so many different artists all the time, and I just have such a wide variety of people, you know, so it's just a matter of like figuring out like, okay, you know, like who's really down to like work and who's really not down to work. But, you know, definitely I'm working on that right now. But I've also like kind of transformed things in a different route as well. I've started a music-based collective called Charisma Collective. And I started that with my friend in LA. His name is Maggie. So we're actually working on building our artist collective right now, which will be a group of artists on the platform that we're just kind of pushing their work and their promo right now. So that's going to be really fun. And I just can't wait for you to see the shoots and what I have going for that too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's awesome. So I know you actually mentioned about you getting into producing earlier, and I have seen on your page, I've seen you making beats and stuff, and I'm like, okay, she's got some stuff going now. So how did that, or like when did that get going, I guess? Like, is that just in the last couple of years you've been kind of picking it up and just kind of learning the ropes, or like, how's it going?
So, you know, like I feel like going into the studio and working with different producers, I got a chance to see them like work on beats, and you know, they were always coming up with like these different intricate sounds, and I'm like, oh my god, like I really want something like this in my music, and I want to be able to do this myself, because what if I don't have a producer that day who can like work on a beat? Like I need to know what Juno's doing, you know what I mean? Like I need to know how to do everything that the producer's doing as well. So I just kind of like started taking like mental notes basically, and like every time I was in the studio I would just watch what they were doing, and then I went home and, you know, I would try to apply it. And I started out doing it on GarageBand, actually, just like, you know, using their little beat kits and like playing around, and then it went from GarageBand to Pro Tools, and then Pro Tools to Logic, and then I just started like figuring out like different little cool things and ways to make my sound, the sound that I wanted, display for everybody to hear. So it's still a work in progress. Like I am no means a producer yet. I literally just play around with that shit. Like it's we're like, you know, but I feel like I'm getting more, I guess, confident in the producing aspect of things versus just like the writing and the singing aspect.
Yeah. I think it's really just like anything else. Like, as long as you stick with it, I feel like you'll get better over time. You know what I mean? Like, I think within the first, like, speaking from my experience, I remember like the first like year that I was making beats, none of them were really good. I probably made like one in every like 200 or 300 was good. You know what I mean? But it's just like, it's the same as like being an artist. It's like, I feel like if you're writing every day and you're working on songs every day, you're not going to use hardly any of the songs, but you're getting better because you're just doing it over and over again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like as long as you stick with it, you'll get good at it. Because I feel like as an artist, you would have honestly kind of an advantage because you already know song structure. You know what I mean? Like you know
Yeah,
how you're gonna write a song, so all you have to do is kind of take the music and pair it up with what you're doing with the
right,
words. So
right.
yeah, I
And
don't know.
it's definitely a process, but it's so fun. And I think like I just encourage like every artist that's coming out right now to just pick it up, like
Mm,
try it for yourself, like try to get in as many bags as you can, whether that be a writer's bag, whether that be the beat making aspect of it, just be in your bag, period. And
mm,
like that's literally the only advice I can give to like some young artists out
mm.
there.
Exactly. So I know you dropped 9 to 5 back in I think April or March, right?
It
So
was April,
yeah.
yes.
So I'm curious to know kind of what the backstory is on that song and kind of how that one came together because I was a big fan of that one personally.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You know what? 9 to 5 is so funny because I actually got my heart broken. That is the story behind 9 to 5. It definitely ended up with a heartbreak, but I feel like after that heartbreak, I was just kind of dating people to like date,
Mm,
and in the song, I say. Maybe you could spend the night, or maybe you're nice. And I'm literally just talking about like people I'm swiping through on like dating apps. So I'm like writing from like my experience in my head. So that's kind of where this story derives from. And I actually just sat down and I actually freestyled. 9 to 5 was a freestyle. Not a lot of people know that. I freestyled 9 to 5, and then I rewrote it in my bedroom. And I actually did not put out the song. Like, I didn't even really think too much of the song. I knew it was a good song, but I was like, I don't know if I want this to be my first single. But
mm,
then I went to LA, and I worked with Steven on the joint, my producer. Shout out to Steven. And it just became like this whole thing. And he was just like, nah, this is it. Like, this is the one. You got to push this one. So we ended up pushing it, and it was just like a really dope experience.
mm,
So yeah,
yeah.
9 to 5.
Yeah. I liked it too because it was kind of like it was almost had like a funk to it too. Like it wasn't like a really somber song. It was more like upbeat in sense too, a little bit too. Like
Yeah,
it was kind of like I could tell you were kind of having fun with just the writing, like kind of how you were doing it too. So
definitely. That's what I wanted. I didn't
yeah.
want a typical breakup song. Like, I wanted to put out a single that was like, she's broken up with, but she's still that bitch.
Mm,
Like, like, she's still dope as hell. Like, even though she's going through all of this, and I feel like a lot of girls can relate to that. So I didn't really want to like I didn't want to put that first single out and make it like this little sad joint. I really wanted something that people were going to be able to feel. And I felt like they could feel that soul, when I
mm,
was singing 9 to 5, and they could feel like that funk, like you said. And it just had like that bop to it that people were like, okay, off bat, they're like already bobbing their head. They're
mm,
already like, before I even had to sing, it was like relatable. So
mm.
yeah.
That kind of leads into my next question, which would be as far as, how you approach music, how do you think you want fans to really feel after they hear your music? Like, is there ever, like, have you ever thought about maybe not like the lasting impact of your music, but what is the overall goal you think you're trying to get people to take away from your songs, you think?
I think the overall goal I want people to take away from my music is, positivity. That's something definitely that like I push in my music. So, I definitely want people, I feel like it's going to be a mixture of things that I want people to feel. I wouldn't just say it's like one feeling, but I definitely think like the main feelings that I do write about, is I want people to feel love when they hear my music. I want people to feel happiness, and just like that positive vibe, whether
Mm,
they're like smoking, they at a function, they just doing something cool. But it's like when you hear Juno, it's like, damn, that's Juno. And it's like this girl is like, you hear it, and it's like I'm happy, like I'm in a vibe.
mm,
And I feel like I give people that creation of what a vibe feels like. And
mm.
like that's like the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, love that. So obviously, like we said, there's a lot of things you're working on right now. Is there anything that you can reveal about what you're going to be dropping next? Is it a single, EP, album? Like, what are you thinking is coming soon?
Well, y'all, get ready for the EP. 9 to 5 was just a little taste tester, actually. I am working on 3 more songs right now. So these 3 are going to get done by the end. Like, we're in the works right now. So I'm hoping within this next couple months that I can finish these 3 songs and bang them out. But definitely, it's after 9 to 5, it's following up with those 3 on an EP. And, you guys are just going to have to wait and see and be ready for that when that EP drops, because it's going to be lit. But even before then, I think I'm also going to be pushing some singles, before even the EP comes out. So you guys can expect that. I'm also working with a couple of different artists right now, like on some projects. So you're going to hear me on some other people's projects. Super excited about that. A lot of Arizona artists, actually. I have something coming with my homie Maggie. I have something coming with Lur Stevens. So he's actually in Philly, though. So that's super exciting. Someone from Philly wanting to work. But yeah, just like a couple of different people I have some joints coming with. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I've been seeing all these previews like on your stories, and I'm like, oh, she's got a lot ready. Like I know there's a lot coming. So
in the wall, just like so much happening at one time. So it's super exciting.
Awesome. So last couple questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. If you could go back 10 years ago, maybe give yourself a piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
I think the biggest advice I would give myself if I had to go back 10 years ago is to just go for it and be confident, and stand behind that, whatever you want to do, whatever that is. Because I remember just growing up and being this shy girl, not shy, but definitely I would lack confidence in my music, in myself. So I was just like, I grew up in Inglewood. I grew up in Inglewood. Like, I never thought that people would hear me, so I just put my music on the back burner for the longest time. And then it really wasn't until I got older that I broke out of that shell of like insecurity and like, anxiety and scared to show people who I really am. So I think that would just be my biggest critique, is just to always, if I could go back 10 years ago, I would have just been more confident and stand behind my genuineness and just not be afraid to really take that leap.
So if we flip it then and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you envision yourself in your life and your career?
Ooh, that's hard. You know what? I've just because it's like music is my love and it's my passion and it's something that I want to do for the rest of my life, and I know that. I think 10 years from now, like even if I'm not, at like SZA level or Janae level or anybody like that, I do still feel like I'm going to be in the industry one way or another. And whether that's, writing, producing, just, still making music, period, and putting it out and getting those royalties from it in some aspect. But also, I just think that 10 years from now, I'll be exactly where I'm supposed to be. And because like we can all sit here and be like, oh, I'm going to be there in 10 years, I'm going to be there. But I just feel like as long as I keep my consistency and I have that goal in mind, like I already know that like the music industry, like just the industry period is my life. And I definitely want to reveal some cool stuff to you while I have you, that I'm doing behind the scenes as well. I'm actually working on a pilot episode right now that I'm looking to pitch to like Netflix and Hulu. So a lot of like local artists, I'm working with them to like get their music in the show, the series. So not only am I working on music right now, but I'm also working on producing a whole series based around music. So I really can't wait for you guys to see that actually visually play out. Yeah. So I don't know where I'll be in 10 years, but I know that I'll be somewhere like in the industry for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Final words of wisdom. Yes. I would just say go for that shit. Like don't be if you love music and if you feel like it's your calling, then keep going. Like, don't let nobody tell you, like, this is not, this is not for you, because nobody knows what's for you at the end of the day. Only you can determine your future and your success. And, you know, I'm big on motivating people. And I just think that anybody can really just do anything. And it just really takes the work, the practice, and the manifestation. And, you know, I don't know who's spiritual out there, who's not, but, you know, I definitely pray about it as well. So I just think that, you know, one of my biggest things is just be yourself. Never let anybody tell you who you are. And, you know, if you love it, then do it. Mm-hmm. There's nobody holding you back but you, period.
Love that. Absolutely love it. Juno, that's all I have for you today. Thank you once again for joining me. I wish you luck on all the music you got coming out, the show. I'm looking forward to that. Your collective, everything you got going. Keep being genuine. Keep being yourself. Love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, just talking with you, and yeah, I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for listening today. That was episode number 63. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds, and feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you then. Thanks very much, guys.